Ragnar Lodbrok. Ragnar Lodbrok is remembered as a Viking raider king whose life stands between history and saga. The sources do not let us treat every detail as certain, but the death story attached to his name became one of the strongest legends of the Viking world. In the sagas, Ragnar sails to England with too few men, trusting reputation more than numbers. He is captured by King Ella of Northumbria, and Ella chooses a punishment designed to humiliate him as much as kill him. Ragnar is thrown into a pit of snakes. The scene matters because it turns a prisoner into a threat even while he is dying. He is trapped in the pit, but he does not beg. He answers with the kind of words that were meant to travel farther than his body. The famous warning says that the little pigs would grunt if they knew how the old boar suffered. The meaning is clear. His sons will hear of this and they will come. The story does not need every detail to be provable to be powerful. Ella tries to make Ragnar's death a message of royal control. Instead, the saga turns it into a trigger for revenge. Ragnar dies surrounded by serpents, but the real danger leaves the pit alive in the form of his sons, his name, and the war that his death promises. Ivar the Boneless. Ivar the Boneless is remembered as one of Ragnar's sons and one of the most feared leaders connected with the great heathen army. His nickname remains uncertain. It may describe a physical condition, a symbolic trait, or something later storytellers no longer understood. What is clear is that Ivar's reputation became tied to intelligence, cruelty, patience, and revenge. If Ragnar's death is the insult, Ivar is the answer. In AD 865, the great heathen army landed in England, and Ivar was among the names associated with its command. This was not a quick coastal raid for silver. It was a moving war machine built for conquest, winter camps, political pressure, and the destruction of kingdoms. Northumbria fell, East Anglia suffered. Kings who thought they were defending Christian order found themselves facing a Viking strategy that did not depend on one battle. That is what makes Ivar's own death so unsettling. The man remembered as a cold architect of violence does not receive a clear, heroic ending. He died in AD 873, probably in Dublin. The sources do not give us a snake pit, a last stand, or a dramatic duel. They leave us with illness, burial, and uncertainty. For a warrior whose name is linked to terror moving across Britain and Ireland, the body vanishes quietly. Ivar's death is not famous because of one spectacular wound. It is famous because the silence around it feels wrong for a man who made so much noise in life. Sigurd the Mighty. Sigurd the Mighty was a Norse Earl of Orkney, ruling in the northern sea world, where Viking power touched Scotland, islands, ships, and saga memory. His most famous enemy was Maelbrigte, remembered with the nickname the Buck-Toothed. The two men agreed to fight with equal numbers, 40 men on each side. Sigurd broke the agreement and arrived with twice as many. He won the battle before fairness could even enter the field. Maelbrigte was defeated, killed, and beheaded. Then Sigurd made the mistake that turned victory into one of the strangest deaths in Viking tradition. He tied Maelbrigte's severed head to his saddle as a trophy and rode away. The trophy was supposed to prove domination. Instead, it became the weapon that killed him. As Sigurd rode, one of Maelbrigte's prominent teeth scratched his leg. The wound became infected. The infection worsened. Sigurd died from it. The story is brutal, ugly, and memorable because the dead man seems to take revenge without moving. Sigurd cheats the living enemy, wins the battle, claims the head, and still loses. No axe blow brings him down. No army traps him. No heroic opponent defeats him face to face. The man called Mighty is killed by a tooth from the corpse he tried to display. It is one of the darkest jokes in the Viking death tradition, and one of the easiest images to remember. Erik Bloodaxe. Erik Bloodaxe was a son of Harald Fairhair, the king remembered for unifying Norway. That gave Erik royal blood, but it also placed him inside a family where power was dangerous and brothers could become obstacles. Tradition presents him as a ruthless claimant who tried to secure power by removing rivals too close to the throne. Whether every detail is exact or shaped by enemies, the reputation stuck. His name became a warning before his story even began. Erik ruled Norway for a time, lost it, and then carried his ambition across the sea to Northumbria. York offered him another crown, but not stability. Northumbria was a violent borderland, pulled between Viking power, English kings, local elites, and shifting loyalties. Erik became useful to some men and threatening to others. That is a dangerous way to survive. His death came in AD 954 at Stainmore, in the hard country between kingdoms. The accounts differ, but the ending is clear enough. Erik was cut off, ambushed, or betrayed far from secure rule. He did not die as a peaceful king in a hall, surrounded by loyal men and inheritance. He died on a bleak road as a political problem being removed. The name Bloodaxe sounds like unstoppable violence, but his death shows the opposite. Violence can win a throne for a season. It cannot make the ground under that throne safe. Haakon Sigurdsson. Haakon Sigurdsson, Earl of Lade, ruled much of Norway before the final Christian kings reshaped the country. He was powerful, pagan, politically skilled, and feared. In the sagas, his rule becomes darker over time, and the people who once obeyed him begin to turn against him. When Olaf Tryggvason arrives in Norway, Haakon's authority collapses quickly. Farmers rise, allies disappear. A ruler who had commanded men, ships, and territory becomes a fugitive in his own land. He hides with a slave named Kark. The setting of the death is what makes the story so humiliating. Haakon does not fall in open battle. He is not killed on a ship. He is concealed in a swine sty, hidden beneath wood, earth, dung, and pigs with Kark beside him. Nearby, Olaf promises a reward to anyone who kills Haakon. The two men hear the offer from inside the filthy hiding place. Haakon understands that the last person with him may now be his greatest danger. When he finally sleeps, Kark takes a knife and cuts his throat. Then Kark brings Haakon's head to Olaf, expecting payment. Olaf has Kark executed too. Haakon's death strips him of every sign of status. The powerful earl ends beneath pigs, betrayed by his slave, and reduced from ruler of Norway to proof that his enemies had won. Olaf Tryggvason. Olaf Tryggvason was a Viking king, a Christian convert, and one of the most forceful rulers in the struggle over Norway's religious future. He had raided, fought, ruled, converted, threatened, and built a reputation that mixed faith with violence. To supporters, he was bringing Christianity and royal authority. To enemies, he was a dangerous man using both cross and sword. His final battle came at sea, which fits the story of a Viking king perfectly. Around the year AD 1000, Olaf was trapped at the Battle of Svolder. His enemies had waited for the right moment. Sweyn Forkbeard of Denmark was involved. The Swedish king was involved. Erik of Lade was involved. Olaf stood on the Long Serpent, his great warship, while hostile ships closed in around him. the battle turned his ship into a shrinking island. Enemy warriors boarded deck by deck. His men fell around him. The king's space became smaller and smaller until there was nowhere left to rule. Then the accounts divide. Some say Olaf jumped into the sea in full armor rather than be captured. Others let him vanish, creating rumors that he survived somewhere beyond reach. Either way, the body was not handed neatly to his enemies. That is why his death remained useful to legend. Olaf's kingdom was broken at Svolder, but the sea made his ending unfinished. Sweyn Forkbeard. Sweyn Forkbeard was king of Denmark, father of Knut the Great, and one of the Viking rulers who came closest to turning raids against England into possession of England. He spent years applying pressure through attacks, tribute, alliances, fear, and political timing. By AD 1013, England was exhausted. Ethelred fled. English leaders submitted. Sweyn became King of England. For a Viking ruler, it was the kind of prize that could define an entire life. The cruelty of his death is that he barely had time to hold it. Sweyn ruled England for only a few weeks. On February 3rd, AD 1014, he died suddenly at Gainsborough. The sources do not give him a grand final battle or a heroic death scene. There is no last stand on a beach, no burning ship, no duel for the crown. The conqueror is stopped by the body just after the conquest succeeds. Later imagination made the ending darker, with stories of supernatural punishment or saintly vengeance. But the plain version is already strong enough. Sweyn spent years forcing open the English kingdom and then died almost immediately after entering it. He conquered England, but he did not get to rule it in any lasting way. His death turned triumph into a handoff, and the future passed to his son Snut. Olaf Haraldsson. Olaf Haraldsson began as a fighter and raider, then became king of Norway, then became something even more powerful after death, Saint Olaf. During his life, he pushed Christianity, royal authority, and a more unified Norwegian kingdom. That made him important, but it also made him hated by many powerful men. Olaf was not a gentle saint in life. He ruled hard, forced change, punished enemies, and created resistance. He was driven out of Norway and went into exile. In AD 1030, he returned to take the kingdom back. The final confrontation came at Stiklestad on July 29, AD 1030. Olaf was not simply fighting foreign invaders, he was fighting Norwegians who opposed his return, his rule, his religion, or all three at once. That makes the death more personal and more politically charged. The battle was close and chaotic. Tradition says Olaf was struck by spear, axe, and sword. The king fell in the fighting. His enemies had removed him from the field, but they did not control what happened next. Soon after his death, reports of miracles grew. His body and memory became sacred. Within a short time, Olaf the defeated king became Olaf the Saint. Stiklestad did not erase him, it transformed him. The men who killed him won the battle and accidentally helped create Norway's most important royal martyr. Canute IV. Canute IV was king of Denmark at the late edge of the Viking world, when kings still looked toward England and churches had become centers of authority. He was ambitious, devout, and determined to strengthen royal power. He planned an invasion of England, but fleets and armies required money, service, and obedience. Danish nobles and farmers did not want to pay the price of his ambition. A revolt broke out against him. Canute fled to St. Alban's Church in Odense, a church he had founded. That location is the key to the whole death scene. He does not die in battle, in a hall, or in a ship. he dies in a sacred place surrounded by the symbols that were supposed to protect a Christian king. Inside the church were Canute, his brother Benedict, and members of the royal party. Outside were rebels who had decided that sanctuary would not stop them. On July 10th, AD 1086, they broke in and killed him. The image is direct and brutal. A king near the altar, prayer and weapons in the same room, royal authority trapped inside holy walls. Like Olaf Haraldsson, Canute became more useful after death than he had been alive. The rebels killed a king they considered dangerous. The church received a martyr. His death shows how the old violent politics of the Viking world had moved inside Christian buildings without becoming less violent. Harald Hardrada. Harald Hardrada was the last great Viking king to make a serious bid for England by force. Before he reached Stamford Bridge, his life had already crossed half the known world. He fought as a young man, went into exile, served in the Byzantine world, gained wealth and military experience, returned north, and became King of Norway. His nickname means hard ruler, and the name fits the life. In AD 1066, after the death of Edward the Confessor, Harold sailed to England to claim the throne. He joined Tostig Godwinson and defeated northern English forces at Fulford. For a moment, the invasion looked terrifyingly successful. Then Harold Godwinson, King of England, marched north at shocking speed. At Stamford Bridge on September 25th, AD 1066, the Norwegians were caught off guard. Many had left their mail shirts at the ships because of the heat. That choice became fatal. Harold fought aggressively as the English attacked. Then an arrow struck him in the throat. The last great Viking king fell on English ground. His men tried one final counterattack, remembered as Orr's Storm, but exhaustion and English pressure destroyed it. Only a small part of the invasion force sailed home. Harold came to England for a crown and received a grave. His death at Stamford Bridge became the symbolic end of the Viking attempt to take England in the old way, with ships, blades, and a king at the front. 10 Vikings, 10 endings, Ragnar in the snake pit, Ivar disappearing into illness and uncertainty, Sigurd killed by the tooth of a dead enemy, Erik Bloodaxe cut down far from a secure throne, Haakon betrayed beneath a swine sty, Olaf Tryggvason vanishing from his final sea battle, Sweyn Forkbeard dying almost as soon as England was his, Olaf Haraldsson falling at Stiklestad and rising as a saint, Canute IV murdered inside the church he trusted, and Harald Hardrada, the last great Viking king, dying with an arrow in his throat at Stamford Bridge. Their lives were built around ships, land, silver, kingship, revenge, and reputation. But their deaths are the reason the story survived. In the Viking world, the end of a man was never just the end of a body. It was the moment he became a warning, a claim, a martyr, or a legend sharp enough to cross 1,000 years.